Don't care about it.
All right, thank you so much for coming today and coming to this meeting. It is so important for the counselors to be here. So I'm glad that you all were able to make it. And special props to our two CITs that are here because they were up here at 2 o'clock, but you all should. So way to go, Stephen and Isaiah, being here first. So let's get started in word prayer, and then we'll start into, we're going to be talking a lot about discipline today. Jason, pray?
Lord God, just thanks again for the opportunity we have in a week to spend with a lot of children, God, who some of which know you, God, some of which have heard a lot about you, God, all of which, God, we want you to work in their lives. God, we want you to change them. We want you to just make this, God, not just a week that's fun and exciting, God, but a week of real life change. So we ask you for that, God. We ask that you would especially guide us when it comes to just the discipline and the direction of the camp. Just equip and empower each of us. God, I pray that we would prepare ourselves, God, that we would be people who are living for you, God, or walking with you. God, that we wouldn't just think we can just walk into camp and make it happen, God, but that we would be dependent on you, especially as we're dealing with kids, God, who need discipline and direction. God, just give us wisdom, give us insight. Allow this time just to be a good time to begin. God, just the conversation about how to really help kids, God, how to help, especially kids that just don't have discipline in their life. God, help us know how to deal with that. Just give us wisdom and really cause us to depend on you. God, I pray that each of us here would be very dependent on you, God, throughout the week of camp. In your name, amen.
So I'm Kelly. If any of you don't know me, I am the director for Camp Conquest, which means I did a lot of the planning. We've been working on this week since January and putting it all together and doing a lot of work all summer, especially just to bringing together the details of it. And then the deans at camp are very important people too that you should get to know and appreciate very much because they have done a lot in regards to just figuring out this discipline stuff that we have to handle at camp, which is just how we handle the kids all week. So Jason, Neil, and Ashley are three wonderful, very willing deans this year. So if you have any questions about working with the kids, dealing with the kids at camp, please feel free to come to any of us at any point in time. We're there to help you. We really want this to be a fantastic week. So come and find us at any point if you need us that week. So we have this paper. It says camper discipline. And today a lot of what we're doing, we're going to read through this. It's got so much great information. So we're going to go through it today. We'll go through everything that's in it. And we'll throw some of our own comments out as well in regards to stuff too. So,
Yeah, we'll plan to spend about probably an hour and a half on this, and it's fine if you ask questions during the time. We are videotaping it for some of the counselors that couldn't make it as well. So if you do make a comment, just try to talk loudly, especially if your name's Isaiah. All right.
Christina, shout out. Good to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. See you soon. Sorry.
We'll take about 2 hours now. But yeah, as we start, I think one of the things I want you to know, if you were here last year, that it's going to be very different in terms of how we deal with discipline. I think that would suffice to say. That's why we have the whole training for it, and we're also just giving you a whole lot of different direction for it. So just be ready for that, I think, as we begin talking. But I don't know if you had anything else you want to jump in. But so just know that it's a lot different than last year. And one of the things we'll reiterate as we go throughout the session is just that we all really have to be on the same page. I know often when you get to camp, the first thing you'll do is you come to a kid and you'll think that they're a special case that you have to deal with differently, and they're not. We have policies in place, we have procedures that we want to follow all across the board with each kid. Obviously you got to respond to their differences, but there's not a case where you at any time need to kind of say, well, I'm just going to take this to my own hand, I'm going to do my own thing. And I think we had that happen at different times last year, and it's just difficult. So we're giving you here's the way we are going to discipline at camp, and there's procedures for it and the way it works. And you'll hear it throughout this, it starts off by saying that we're trying to teach kids to go in the right way. So discipline isn't just spanking a kid, or we won't do any of that, but it's more instructing them and guiding them in the right direction. And we know that the problems are going to come, and we'll explain that as we go throughout the thing today. So, but I can start off, and then we'll kind of take turns reading stuff. And at any time, Neil or Ashley, I know we all made comments as we read through this the other day. If you have questions, please ask as well. But this comes from a camp that's been going for a long, long time out in California that specifically works with kids from the inner city. Specifically, a lot of children who don't have dad involved in their life, a lot of kids that just have never been disciplined before. And that's what we know going into this week. You know, we love our kids from our community, but we know that many of them just don't have discipline at home. The only discipline they have is somebody shouting at them and yelling, and that just doesn't work. And then we get them for a week, and we expect them to be different. And they aren't. They're in process, so you got to realize that. Our role is to teach a child in the way he should go, so when he's older, he will not turn from it. In Proverbs 22:6 is that command to parents. So we're trying to instruct kids in how to live life to honor God. Understand that discipline is an opportunity to lead kids in a process that shows them options, and treating them with dignity. It's not about me as a counselor clamping down, listen to me, listen to my authority, but help them realize, like, look, you got like the theme for Camp Andrew is like a fork in the road. You can go one way or you can go the other way. You need to make a choice now to realize that it's going to affect you later in life. So we're to be an example and a promoter of successful behaviors, helping to create habits that will lead to true transformation. So like we've already mentioned, more of an instructor rather than just an authoritarian. I know as men this is difficult. When little boy does not listen to me, does not go to bed, he does not stand where I want him to stand, what do? I grab hold of him. I want to throw him across the room. That's not the way we deal with discipline at camp, because we're instructing them in the right way. We will have a very hands-off policy this year as well. We're not going to hold kids unless we absolutely have to. We're not going to try to make them sit somewhere unless we absolutely have to, unless it's hurting them. So it's very different than last year. We had a lot of physical restraint. That won't happen this year. We're only going to restrain if there's a fight or something like that. Otherwise, we have, as you'll see, we have a system in place that if a kid is not doing what we ask them to do, pretty quickly we're on the phone with their parents and they might be heading home. So know that that's a big difference this year, especially just trying to be more instructing kids in the right way, because we can't change them, and we certainly can't change them if we are holding on to them. It often gets worse and worse, as we saw from last year. The importance of discipline must be viewed as an opportunity for growth, not just a negative experience for both parties. We must be consistent, as we mentioned already, with our discipline. It's not fair for campers if one counselor tends to be extremely lenient with them and then lets them get away with anything, while another counselor is actually following the system in place. We need them, the kids, to see it's not just us holding them to a higher standard, but it's a God thing, and it's holding them to God's standards. So it's important, and we'll give you some guidelines, and we'll kind of give them throughout the week as well, and even things like lights out, or how much pool time can kids lose. Because last year, we certainly have some counselors that are just, you get fed up, and you're like, you are not doing anything tomorrow. You're sitting in your bunk all day. And then there's the other counselor that's like, hey, I'll buy you a snack if you're quiet. It's like, okay, the two extremes in discipline. It doesn't work. It's like, I like the counselor that buys me something if I'm quiet. I don't like the counselor who wants to destroy my free time. So we're going to give you some direction for that, and don't want it to be, because it happens. It's like, I like Mr. Hector, but I don't like Mr. Dave. Mr. Dave is big and tough. And no, we're going to be consistent in how we discipline. So that's why we're putting some standards here. Know that many of our campers don't have rules in place at their home. So we need to be sure that we clearly communicate with them the first night that we have rules. And I think some of the rules, I don't know if we wrote those out. We have some of our just rules that we are not budging on. This might be a good time to go through those. Ashley, you've not only written them out, you've illustrated them. It's amazing.
We're still on the same page. You guys may have an opportunity to take part in that clear communication of the rules through each of us in your teams. I think today maybe even preparing little skits to demonstrate that. So you can kind of have that in your mind as you're reading through. How could we, in a fun, creative way, demonstrate to these kids and make it really clear, oh, okay, this is, so you guys will take part in that too, to make sure that there's really visual examples.
So we'll read through these, and then I don't know at what point we want to do that. But it also would be good to have some feedback from those of you who were here last year. Does this cover everything? Or is there other stuff? Because this stuff we want to clearly say to the kids. Here's kind of expectations. Last year we made it was more of a blanket kind of statement. But this year we're going to especially give some specifics about things that perhaps were reoccurring. So we tried to think as much as we could about, okay, what kept coming up again last year that maybe if we had reiterated it or made it kind of firm at the beginning of the week, it would have helped throughout the rest of the week. So the first, you can go through these, Ashley, if you want.
They're not in any certain order. They're just so they fit on the page pretty. But
Except for there's
first,
1, 2, 3.
yeah, that's just so you can say number 1, 2, 3. So number 1. Yes. Look at that. That's an artist reading the picture. But yeah, they're not running on the hill, like, so they can't run down the hill. If they want to run up the hill, that's probably fine because it's not dangerous to run up a hill. You just can't run down a hill because it gets out of control, especially if you're not used to running down a hill, and none of our kids are used to running down a hill. And so during scavenger hunts or anything like that, it's not like, let's see who can get to the bottom of the hill first. Because we saw like 15 kids running down the hill last year. We're like, oh, don't run! Yeah, that was me.
They didn't run, they rolled.
Yeah, they rolling is works.
Rolling's fine.
Rolling's fine. We're running. Then rest time and lights out means that you're in your beds, no lights, no talking, no playing, and we're gonna help you. You'll see later on how to help that happen. 3, flip-flops are for showers and pool only. If they have flip-flops on, they must use the steps to walk to the pool though. They can't walk up the hill where the guys walk sometimes. So they just need that. That's Camp Conquest rule that they need to use the steps if they're flip-flops. And we, so they can do that if they're the guys walking to the showers, if they're like Birch or something, or the girls that have to walk to the showers, or going to the pool. All other times they shouldn't have flip-flops. Stay with your group, no wandering off. There's no bad language or put-downs. It's expected that you show respect to campers, counselors, and staff. Do not distract from any activity or teaching time. Basically, they need to listen, so that's there. And no fighting, physical fighting or otherwise endangering one's safety is a direct trip to the deans. No reminder or warning necessary. And it says cards there. You'll understand that a little bit as we go through things.
Yeah, so anything you could think of, those of you who were here last year, because some of the big ones we tried to cover were obviously the stay with your group. I think with the boys, that was one of the hardest things last year. And then also physical fighting, of course, which is just an understood rule. And language and put downs. So this is different than last year, but anything you would think, hey, does this fit into a certain category, or this was a challenge that we had with kids from before? 7 is the perfect number, although these aren't in any order. Cool. Well, if you think of something else, let us know. But these will be stuff.
No leaving trash or no littering.
Yeah. No running, no littering while running down hills, maybe. Put it together. It's true. That's a challenge for some kids when they're used to our wide open garbage can here.
So we say clearly communicating these rules. One of the spots that's going to happen is camper orientation, which is soon after we get to camp. We'll have all the kids together. And that's when Neil mentioned doing skits. That's when you guys will be helping us to do some skits to demonstrate weeks. So that's one time. But for all of you who are senior counselors, another time rules are very clearly communicated. And be on your toes with that is the first night in your cabin. Make sure you really clearly set out your expectations of this is how the night is going to go. And first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. Really clearly say this is what lights out looks like. Tell them what you expect, because a lot of times kids have trouble with rules because they don't know what they are. They don't know what you expect from them. So you will have a much better time if you really clearly communicate that stuff. So we'll do it as a whole at camp orientation, but make sure senior counselors are doing it in your cabin that night too.
Yeah, it says too often we want our campers just like us, so we don't enforce the rules at the beginning. And this goes for a range of people. Sometimes it's the younger guys who don't do that as well. Sometimes it's even older people, who just want kids to like them. Or sometimes it's people, just in general, you just want your kids to like you, so you don't enforce rules. That doesn't work, because you'll lose credibility. It says by the end of the week you'll start enforcing them, and then you don't have credibility, because you haven't enforced them up to that point. So make sure you enforce the rules from the first night to make it easier on yourself. Most campers we discipline, you might not realize this, they're crying out for help. They don't get attention they need at home, so they're trying to get the attention from us by acting out. So a lot of times it's just more about attention, and you see that from, especially a lot of kids, we know more of their story at home, and it goes pretty clear across the board. A lot of kids just, they're doing things because they think that's the best way to get your attention and for you to listen. And so you have to realize there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't realize. Don't be afraid to call people out. They'll respond to confrontation. But we want you to do this privately. That's the challenge. It's not call them out and embarrass them in front of their entire cabin, but just say, hey, I need to talk to you for a minute, or pull them aside. So it's not, when we say call them out, confront them, that doesn't mean this authoritarian kind of yelling at them, screaming at them. We'll talk a lot about just the different ways that you should talk later on in the packet, but as much as possible, calling them out privately or going to them privately. At nighttime, it's going and you're talking to them next to their bunk. And there's a whole sheet in here actually about bedtime that I think you might refer to this week or next week. Next week, okay. We'll go over that next Sunday. But really work on dealing with stuff immediately, but privately at the same time. It says the campers we discipline tend to be the ones that at the end of the week they don't want to leave. And this does make sense to us. They find Kingdom Kids at Camp Conquest a safe place where they can just be the kids they deserve to be. They truly are home with their brothers and sisters in Christ. And it's always funny, at the end of the week, it's like the kids that love really like it a lot. Our kids that, well, I didn't enjoy being here with you all week, and it was a rough time, but you loved it, now you like me. And it's always funny to see kids like a week or two after camp, and they love you. And you're like, wait a minute. Remember, I was the one that was holding you for 2 hours while you're kicking and screaming, but they like you. There's this, God uses it. Someone else want to read through the next one?
Yeah. Facts that cause or contribute to this discipline problem. So some of these, I think, in the proactive thing we see are preventable. Some of them are just going to happen no matter what. But yeah, just things that we can also think about how to counteract them. So hungry, tired, or sick, bored due to needing something more challenging, being frustrated because they cannot comprehend the language or the lesson, seeking attention. So again, some of these, okay, if they're bored, how can we challenge them? If they're not comprehending, how can we simplify stuff? Pushing you to see how far one can go, testing their boundaries with your reactions. Again, implementing the discipline right from the start is important. Short attention span, lack of healthy discipline at home, learning disabilities, emotional issues, mental illnesses, lack of organization by their leader. Leaders are being condescending or being perceived as unfair because the consequences of broken rules are not being administered consistently. Which is a big theme, consistency for all of us.
We need to be proactive to prevent discipline problems. We need to pray before the day or before specific activities. I forget about that and get into busyness, so it makes the time to slow down and pray with each other, pray with the kids. Remember that God listens to our prayers and be seeking Him out. Remind kids of the rules often and in a fun way. I'll fix this and give them out next week. You can put them up in your cabin. We go over rules every week, simple rules at Kingdom Kids. Have the kids yell them and different stuff like that, just so it's always you can point back and say, you know this, you know this, you know this. So you can put them up, you can go over them in the mornings, whatever. Praise kids when they make good choices. If they're sharing or being kind, saying thank you, just look for the good. As much as possible, remove items that are not to be messed with that cause curiosity. If you're trying to do some project or something with them, maybe keep the supplies out of the way until you want them to use them, so they're just not, kids are explorative, they want to check things out, so help them in that way. Be strategic, separate cliques and those stirring trouble, especially during structured activities when they will be expected to listen. At chapel, at campfire, sit between kids that there'll be problems with. Have clear consequences.
Yeah, and some of the stuff, that helps a lot with the lesson times. If you immediately just jump in between some kids, you're going to find out right away. Especially campfire was one of the hardest times last year. You'll know if kids sit in the back, just ask them to sit further up or sit in between them. And we kind of expect you as counselors to be very, very proactive about that, especially during those crucial times. We're trying to teach the kids God's Word. Neil's an interesting person, so he doesn't usually have a problem having the kids listen to him, but you'll find it's difficult sometimes at the campfire. We're going to ask some of you guys to share testimonies, And not that it's not interesting, but sometimes the kids they'll talk because it's not this interactive thing. It's more them hearing a story, which they need to hear it. It's great, but because it's dark, they'll be talking, and that is especially a time when you can jump and be in the middle of kids. And I don't know if there's other ways, Neil, that they could help with lessons, but I think the hardest time last year was definitely campfires in the evening.
And just thinking too, especially about how those are times that you can, there'll be different times when we'll be more or less available, like during chapel I won't be available a lot, but Jason will be for a lot, or during campfire, like, hey, I'm having trouble, like that's where you can focus on the majority of your counselors and say, hey Neil, like I'll be available during campfire to do, I need these 3 kids taken with your arms around them, and we'll go, kind of do that kind of stuff. So that's also
and if you
available for.
Plan activities too, like Amber will give an illustration I think next week about how to deal with downtime, because if the kids don't have any real free time, they don't have any opportunity to think, it's really good because then they don't have any opportunity to get in trouble. So like when you're in line, like go over a memory verse with them. When you're standing around and the kids aren't in an activity, break out in a game of ninja, because all of a sudden you'll have everybody's attention and they won't hurt each other because they're sitting there. I don't know how many times like at craft time, like boys don't do crafts as much. It's like, hey, let's play ninja, and they're all like, oh yeah. And they're like completely still, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't think you need medication. You can deal with this. Like you can, I think I just proved the system wrong. It's like you're fine. All of a sudden because we're playing some games. So you'll see some counselors are just really good at that, but you don't have any time to relax really, except for when you have a rest time. Just be in that mode. And I have kids, so I'm like that already. But with my kids at home, I'm 4, 3, and a 1-year-old. Like if I stop for a moment, I'm going to go nuts. But if I just kind of keep going when they're awake and they want to do something, we wrestle, we do this, we do that. It's a lot more fun for me, and it's a whole lot of fun for them as well. But appropriate discipline and problem solving. We already said we want to present a unified front as a team. This is page 2. I'll keep reading unless Kelly you want to read at some point. But
can we add
yeah.
on make it clear to them not to bring food to the cabin, because that was a big thing for ours. Like I had a whole bunch of I got, but still, as if we can say that in the beginning, so that way we can have it clear, like, okay, seriously. Because I know you said it, I think in campfire was said, but it wasn't stated in the beginning.
Okay, we can make that one of the mealtime rules.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
Snack
bar
time.
and stuff,
It's probably
too.
the snack bar. Thanks, Monty. We'll add that.
That must be a girl
Can
from.
you put something about
She just sits
flashlights?
all over here.
Yeah, it says no lights, but I can be specific.
Or like, yeah. So, I mean, there was more of a chapel, right?
A chapel.
Than campfire.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things we'll say at campfire is just like if we see your light when we say lights off, so we can let them like, okay, turn your flashlight on, okay, time to turn it off. If we see it again, like that's where you guys have to just grab it because up front you can't see anything. But you guys around them, if you space yourself out really well, there's enough of us that we shouldn't have any problems with that. And we can even shut off like some of the back benches or something. That might be one thing that's helpful. But
So are you guys gonna have a set period of time that their flashlight's taken away from them? Because I know that was an issue about when do you get it back last year.
I
No
think-
breaks, you get it taken, it's taken.
I was going to say you can give it back after campfire. So.
you get it back maybe the next morning.
That's
Make it
fine.
for a scary
I
night.
mean, one thing, they're gonna say, I can't get back, but they can stay right with you to get back.
Yeah. Tell them to walk with you, you have a light. So,
So we should have thought about
So the
that
next morning,
beforehand.
that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do. That's why, especially the first day, and probably the second day, we'll like overemphasize certain rules at appropriate times. So like during the chapel or during campfire, especially during campfire, we'll say a whole lot of things in mealtime. So we'll be a little overbearing. If you've heard the rules once, you'll hear them again. We'll do our best to do that.
So they lose the light for the whole night, we just be consistent with that.
Light for the night. Yeah, that sounds good. So prevent a unified front as a team. If there's a disagreement as to how to handle a situation, follow the direction of the staff and discuss it later. Don't argue in front of the children, all right? Men, I think that's probably happened before with some of us. If you're a younger guy and you have an older guy in your cabin, if there's respect the older guys. If they're trying to set some direction, listen up to them. Don't argue in front of kids about different things. You're a team. And if you're not a team, you're going to be in big trouble with your cabin the rest of the week. Leaders communicate with one another when a child has been disciplined. So if something happens again that day, the next leader will know how to respond. At some point, we'll go over the discipline cards, and that's kind of where, I think in each cabin, is there like a leader? Kelly?
Yeah, there's a senior counselor in each.
Okay, so each senior counselor, like the underlings, or whatever we call the minions, the junior counselors or non-senior counselors, in a cabin, you need to communicate. If disciplines happen, like a discipline card, that needs to be known with the other counselors. So you just need to kind of give a report. Hey, I just gave this guy a warning, so you know, so that way you guys are aware of what's going on with the cabins. We already said deal with children privately so they're not embarrassed in front of others. Let children accept responsibility for their actions. Ask the camper to tell you what rule they are breaking. Have them tell you what the consequence is for that behavior. You may need to ask leading questions for them to figure it out. Let them live out the consequences of wrong behavior to a reasonable extent. We'll explain this more as we get into the discipline card. But we really want them to realize kind of that there's consequences for their actions and not just glaze over it, help them really learn from it. Ask good questions and make affirming statements that will help a child learn to repent and obey God. Avoid talking too much. You will only confuse them. And this is hard for some people, especially parents. The more I talk, the more I expect you to change and listen, but often that's not the case. Sometimes you have to wait until the kid's ready to respond, and you have to be patient. Listen to them without judgment. Say what happened. Give them time to tell the story and ask questions that you discern what happened, that help you discern what happened. You might just need to be patient sometimes with the kid and say, well, what happened? And if they say, well, I just want to know what happened. What went on?
Not why, what?
That's right. We'll say that. Don't ask them why. Don't get their opinion on what happened. Affirm their feelings or frustration. I'm sorry that happened. That sounds like it was a hard situation. Hector slugged me. Oh, well, I'm sorry. That must have hurt. Yeah, that's not fair. Let them confess. What were some things that you did that weren't right? Tell me some bad choices that you made that you wish you could do differently. So we're trying to get them to deal with, here's what I did. We're not talking about Hector. We're not trying to deal with what he did. I want to know, what did you do? What happened here that was wrong that you did? Let them learn what is right. You have to help them and give them options. What would have been a better choice? So helping them realize there's different choices to make. And I think the discipline card talks through this a little bit better. Invite them to pray with them. So prayer will be a huge part of all of this. Sometimes we have to be patient. If the kid's fuming and they're mad and they're upset, you got to just wait for a little bit. Pray on your own. Don't try to force the kid to pray with you right away. Just let them cool off and then begin the discipline process. You may need to repeat after you. Here's an example. Just praying, asking God to help. Affirm the children in some way, even if he is not repentant. It's the kindness of the Lord that leads us to repentance, and we are often the instruments of His kindness. So trying to keep things positive. Not sure how you do that in some situations.
The do nots of discipline. Never put your hands on a child in anger. If you shove a kid or squeeze his or her arm, shake, yank, etc., you will break the trust with that child in a way that cannot be fixed. You can also get in trouble with police for child endangerment, and we can get in trouble too. So don't put your hands on kids in anger. Don't yell at a kid in anger either. Generally, functioning out of anger is not a good thing. So give yourself time to cool off when you need to. Don't yell at a kid in anger and turn an argument with them or speak unkindly or disrespectfully. You are the adult. Act like it. If you know the rules and consequences, you can stand your group and just walk the process out. Do not take their behavior personally or emotionally manipulate or guilt trip them into doing what you want. For example, during the craft time, kids were being loud, the leader yelled at them and shared with them how she gave up her time to be with them, so they owed it to her to listen to her. Don't take it personally when they're acting out. Don't overpower a kid unless it's for their own safety. Don't define a kid by their behavior, by sayings like, you're a bad kid, you're a troublemaker, don't act like a jerk, you're crazy. This will devastate the kid and cause them to fear you. And when kids are having problems, they will try to pull you into that. they'll try to get you to say that they're bad. They'll try to get you to say things like that. Don't be pulled into it, because kids do get into that funk where they'll try to get you to do that. And just don't go there, because it is damaging to them. Don't verbally or physically threaten a child, even in teasing. If you don't follow through with what you say, empty threats will cause them to disrespect you. Don't ask a kid, why did you do that? They often don't know why and will get even more frustrated. By asking why, you are asking him or her to justify their own sin.
All right, now we get to the discipline system, which is kind of like the meat and potatoes of what's actually going to spin. And so I think we're going to sorry, you're right. This is the rice and beans and chicken. Oh, yeah, so this is the stuff that's actually good, what's going to happen on the ground level, and we'll try to demonstrate this as we learn how to do it well too. But steps of actions to take. Remember to be sensitive to the situation at hand. God is gracious. Please extend grace when needed. So no matter what, you can't systematize an entire week so that it's like, a big algorithm. Everything is contextual, but this is a good algorithm. It's It's like super sweet. But anyway,
That's a math thing.
It's like a process. Yes, you can't just make it some process, that no matter what, if this happens, I can do this, and then it'll perfectly work out. So there's going to be context. We want to be gracious, but sticking to this for the most part. We're always sticking to this in some form will be really helpful. So first step is reminder. Most of the time, the campers that we come in contact with are not used to all the rules that we put over them, so we need to extend grace where grace is due. At this point, when the camper misbehaves, we lovingly remind them that at Kingdom Kids at Camp Conquest, we have rules that we must follow. There's not a consequence for the action besides a verbal reminder. Disciplines needs to be looked at as an instructional time, to equip our campers with the tools to promote successful behaviors. So, I've been talking about, so I want to give an example of what a reminder might look like at quiet time. Kids talking on his bunk.
Yes, a question.
Go for it, Isaiah. What you got?
I said, you said talking.
Yeah, talking at their bunks during quiet time. What a
I
reminder.
remember rule 2, I guess. Lights off, lights off. We need our rush for one.
Awesome, right? Loving is saying this is the reason that we're doing this. We won't have numbers with them, but those might stick.
And that was good, because you didn't say, stop talking, or shut up. Like, that's not what you need to do. That's a very good way. You say, look, remember the rule is this, so. Awesome. Good job.
Thanks, Isaiah. I wish I had some candy over here. All right, step 2, warning. This is a warning, but it's more serious than a reminder, because you'll see there's actually some stuff that we'll do together. At this time, we need to sit the camper down and go through the discipline card. This should enable you to get to the root of the problem. Ask the questions on the card, allowing them to respond and take ownership. We want to make sure that the camper realizes that they had a choice in their behavior. You may need to draw these choices out of them, always using the adult voice, remembering this is an instructional time. At this point, we need to let them know that if they break a rule again, there is going to be a consequence for their action.
Yeah, if you guys look at the blue card then, this is what this is. So there's no consequence yet. This is still a warning. The consequence is basically sitting down and having to step out and do this with them. That's it. There's not additional ones. You get their name. You ask them what they did. When you did that, what did you want? And then have them think through 4 other things that they could have done instead. And you might have to help them with that, give them ideas, and then let them choose. And then what will you do next time? You can write down what the kids say, or if the kid is an older kid, have them write it down, but some of them might be really slow with writing, so if that's the case, feel free to fill it in for them so you can get back into the thing and they're not frustrated then because of their inability to write well. But yeah, this is a card, and we'll probably have to do these a lot right at the beginning. Like the first day, we might have to do this a lot, and then if we're consistent with this, then I think the next days it would ease up a little bit. And this will make your job for the next steps a lot easier if you have this and you do this thoroughly with them. And we'll give you lots of them.
And
Yeah. Now, this is something that you as counselors are responsible for. Like, we won't do this a lot ourselves as the deans, but you'll just be doing this with your own kids throughout the day. And breaking a rule again, when we move to the third step, which Neil will read through in a minute, doesn't mean like the same rule. It means anything. Like if it's a major rule breaking, if they curse somebody out, and then later in the day they're like running away from the group and not staying with them. Well, it's time for a service project. It's time to move to the next level. It's not you don't get a discipline card for each separate offense. It's like you broke a rule, you break another rule. It's like you're going to get a project. And by the time they get a project, I think one project for most of the kids, like they'll be ready to not do anything else again because they're going to do projects during their pool time or they'll do a project, I think in the evening. We're trying to make another time during their snack. So they'll have 2 different times. It won't be like right away. We'll explain this in the third step. But so just know, like you guys, this is one of your main responsibilities. We're not doing this. We will if we're with groups, but you'll need to have your folder with you, and just need to be proactive about it and extend grace. It doesn't mean like a kid talks during the lesson, and they talk one more time. It's like you don't pull them out of the lesson and go do a discipline card. If it's a constant issue, then maybe once the lesson's over, take opportunity, write it down. Or at nighttime, it's like if a kid, they're talking a little bit, tell me quiet. They talk and tell me quiet. If it becomes a bigger issue, then it's like you might need to take them outside of the cabin and write stuff down, but. It doesn't mean like, oh, I think it just happened once, and now it's happened again, so I'm going. You'll be going nuts if you do that. So that's why there is grace. But, yeah, you hold it until it gets to the service project, then you give it to us. Yep.
Well, this card should be, if you fill one out, everybody in the cabin, counselors should.
Yeah, this is something you review with your counselors. Like during the day, you just say, hey, I wrote up this guy for this, or so that way they know. Yeah. Yep. You have to do it, and you have to communicate that because we can't do that. So that's why as counselors, you're always going to be together with your group, so you can just let them know or make sure especially your senior counselor knows.
Yeah, so there shouldn't be like Amber has a card, Jennifer has a card, and Hector has a card, all on the same kid. Like she should communicate to them, and then you go right to the next step and not be killing yourselves with that.
Yeah, we're gonna find out how well you communicate as counselors. So it'd be good for you to regularly get together and talk and pray, and then say, hey, I just gave this guy a card, or some of it might be pretty funny, so you might want to do that outside of a group. Like, I can't believe this kid just did this. It's hilarious. Just don't do that in front of the kids.
Really quick, one thing that I think for me that was just really key for this whole system is that the whole idea is to be gracious, but to also, I think in previous years it was like, wait until a kid has an explosion, and then we start to take more like steps. Okay, once they have an explosion, then we're going to start enacting something where we pull them aside, right? This idea is, well, look, they're obviously not understanding the rule or not being, they're being some sort of defiant, even if it's a low level. We're going to talk to them right now. And so it's not, okay, well, I'm going to wait until there's a huge problem and then I'll talk to them, or then I'll do a discipline card, or then I'll talk to the dean. It's just, follow the process through so that they can get right away. Okay, these are the rules, and then go from there. So after you do a discipline card, Isaiah, you're talking to the kid, and you say, hey, remember, it's quiet time, we really need our rest, good. 2 minutes later, he's out of his bunk running around again, you remind him he's not responding, say, all right, let's do discipline card, we talk it through. Third time, they say, hey, they're still out of their bunk. This was the biggest one for the kids. Kids just would not be quiet, and it ruined it for the whole cabin. It was 2 kids or whatever. And they say, step 3, action. By this step, we have already reminded the camper and given them a warning about the rules they need to follow. So they've gotten the warning and talked it through, and they just spit on another kid or ran away from the group. Contact your senior counselor to fill them in on the situation. So this is just like you were saying, Mr. Moon, just making sure everyone in the cabin knows what's going on. Arrange a time for the deans and yourself to meet with the camper. So if possible, I know there's probably going to be situations where it's going to be difficult, but we're going to have the counselor, the kid, and one of the deans, male or female, depending who works with, all meeting together. Meet with the camper as soon as possible. Talk through the situation. I said salvation, that's good to talk about. Referring back to the discipline card. Make sure to go over the list of other things they could have done. Why didn't they do what they said they would do the next time? The camper will receive a consequence. The deans will work with the camper on the service project, helping the camper understand the connection between their action and their consequence, making sure that the camper knows the next step for them is to be sent home. During this time, the dean or director will call home to notify their parents or guardian, informing them that their child is currently doing a service project because of not listening, running away, whatever it may be. If this behavior continues, we will have to send their child home. Depending on the situation, the parent could have the opportunity to speak to their child. So at this point, as a counselor, the idea is once you've filled out the card, they've had another problem, and you've contacted the dean, told your senior counselors so people know what's going on, and you've had that meeting, then other than continuing to communicate with the dean, your responsibilities for that specific situation are over, and then it comes to me, and then I ask Jason and Ashley and Kelly what I'm supposed to do, and then they tell me, and then we go from there. But so that's the thing, is once you have that card, and then you meet them up with the dean, then Jason may come back and say, hey, look, this is what we decided. If they have another problem, then we come back and meet again, or this is what the kid wants to say sorry for, and we'll talk about what that consequence is. It will likely be cleaning bathrooms, writing an apology letter to the person they disrespected, or all types of.
Yeah, but that's something that you're bringing it to us then, and then we kind of decide as a team, so you don't have to worry about that, and so that we're consistent with the whole camp. And one kid's not cleaning the entire bathroom when the same kid is just like picking up a stick, so you guys don't have to worry about that. This is where it would come to pool time loss. You don't have to tell them they lose 2 minutes or 5 minutes. They've had their reminder, you've written the warning card, and it's number 3, and so you bring it to us, and then we'll decide, okay, this is what's going to happen during the time. You could give a reminder generally to the whole, remember, consequence for this is going to end up hurting pool time tomorrow, but you don't know how. We don't want you to know how, because then the kids can twist it and manipulate you and all that kind of stuff. So that's all coming to us. And you're not taking your cell phone out and saying, I'm going to call your parent. It's none of that. It's kind of bringing it all to the center so we can all kind of conference about it and then deal with it in a consistent way throughout the whole camp.
Yeah, so a good example is the kid that just won't go to sleep and keeps making noise. It's you don't tell them you're going to lose 15 minutes of pool time. You say, okay, you're going to get a service project during your pool time.
Or we're going to the dean, right?
Yeah, and then we determine it.
That's probably the safest thing.
And we'll have.
Just say we're talking to the dean now. You don't even have to say the service project because you don't know exactly what that will be.
Say it's lights out and the kids do we go to the dean the next morning or?
You can call us that night. I think because you can get through to my number if you have Verizon. I think it works pretty well up there. If you have another service,
You should be able to get through to mine too.
Yeah, so we'll have our phone numbers. So you can text. I know last year a lot of people would text, but with Neil and I both, we're at this point not gonna be in cabins. We might actually take turns sleeping in some of the cabins that need help. So we'll already be there, I think, because it's usually the guys that have more issues at night.
So I think the general thing is that our whole, because otherwise I'm just going to be sitting around and have nothing to do. Our whole goal is to be constantly jumping in wherever you can, so there should never be any hesitation. I don't want to bother. I would be thinking that, Ashley's doing a lot. I don't want to bother her. I don't,
that's
my
right.
role, Ashley's role, Jason's role. We're not doing the other things so that we can just be taking that 1 or 2 kids so that you can just be, having time with the other guys.
Yeah, we typically will stay in a cabin if we know there's a problem. We'll stay there until the kids go to sleep. We don't have a problem doing that, so it's not a problem. And then you guys don't send the kids home, so you don't need to worry about telling kids that. So you don't threaten them ever. So don't say, oh, if you do that again, I'm going to call your parent. Or you don't need to make any those kind of threats. This is Ed Lewis here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to go quietly around you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm just getting a Bible.
My question is why isn't he gonna be up there?
Oh, I think he's dropping in on camp, right? So
I am Wednesday. Yeah.
All right.
So I'm doing that. Kelly said don't do it Thursday.
Yeah, he's doing a karate demonstration.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Play ninja.
I'd expect a week out of him.
Get out of here. You're bad.
Yeah, so don't threaten the kids about going home or calling their parents, because that's what we're going to do. So you don't need to
Yeah,
do
don't
that.
even mention it.
Yeah, or don't guess at consequences or anything like that. We can take care of that.
That's why we say, you can tell them that they have a consequence or call it a service project. That's the other name for it. you don't have to even tell them what it is. You can just be like, oh, you don't even want to find out what it is, and let them use their wildest imagination about it, because their wildest imagination is going to be worse than anything you could dream of anyway. And then we'll actually tell them what it is.
Yeah, and saying like, I mean, I talked to the deans, like the dean should become just a bad word. Like it's kind of like this authority type thing. And the kids like us, so that's all right, but that week will be the deans, so.
So how does that work when, okay, so you have a child, they go to the dean, let's say, and they come back to the cabin or whatever, and you come and get them and tell them, or do you go through us to tell them what they're gonna do, or how does that work?
You'll know. We'll communicate with you. Hey, we're gonna have the kid with us at this time, or
So
make
you'll
sure
actually
they.
come and get them and.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a list of kids, you know, because we'll at that point we'll have your discipline card.
Okay.
Because like we'll take it if they have to do a project. So one of us will get it. No, there's Neil and I are both. We'll deal with the boys, so we'll have it and we'll know who's supposed to be there, and we'll make sure that they're there. And if they're not, that will be a bigger deal. So
then on step 4, when they do go home, if they do go home, we just let you know, hey, they're still acting up, and you will come and take care of that.
yeah, we'll have to spend more time with them. And there's probably 3 kids that could have gone home last year, so we're praying that won't happen. But we know that's a reality.
Yeah.
So
Really quick, Jason, you made this point. I don't think I realized this. The idea is, and this is where, you know, I say we, but I really mean those guys, but we'll try to find this balance with once it gets there. But just because they went to the action stage and they did a service project, I think all that means is you can still remind them, you know, if they're talking in chapel, there's just a reminder, you know what I mean? So reminders are always cool when it's just that, you know, they're just talking. But if there's another offense, a defiant no, or a running away, right, then it just goes right back to the dean again. And so likely it's not going to be, I reminded the kids once, I gave them a warning, we gave them a service project, and then they have one more time, they run down the hill, and then we send them home. I mean, that's probably not going to work, but either way, we would make that decision. But the way it'll work then is, if that's the kid that's having that problem, I think is what he said, right?
Yeah.
You skip the warning and you say, okay, we already did the warning card before, you did the service project, you're going to go talk to Jason and Neil again. Or, you know what I mean? So then that's the point that if they met with a counselor, then every time after the reminder, it goes right to, or sorry, if they met with the dean, every time after the reminder goes right back to the dean again. And if, you know, the problems aren't serious, that could probably happen a couple times before they'd actually have to.
yeah, when a kid is defiant, like the kids we'll send home are just defiant kids, or kids that are fighting. Not one fight, but if there's some serious issues, we won't hesitate to send them home. And we're trying to get the parents to come get them first. That's our recourse. But we do have ways to get them home if we need to.
I think we say any fight goes directly to the deans, you know?
Yeah.
Have you often had to call parents,
Well, this is
even without sending them home?
It's a different thing because I think most camps tell you never to call parents because that's more about homesickness. So that kind of just, I think, has been part of our psyche. And so this is a whole change. Like we're actually getting the parents involved right away rather than like waiting. And it's worked well in our kids program here. This summer we found that helpful. Like kids not listening, it's like, all right, let's talk to your grandma or your mom, and their mom, you know, gives them a mouthful of curse words that keep them in line. But at least the parent knows what's going on. I'm not kidding. I heard one from a kid this summer. Handed her, and she's like, I want to talk to him. Okay, I'm here now. I'm gonna listen. But yeah, that's different. So we've not done a lot of that. We try not to do it with homesick kids. So that is different. So we try not to get them in touch with their parents. Otherwise, they're like, woo. So.
Do you have a number that parents are able to call if parents want to call the camp?
Yeah, I think
Parents who are homesick?
they call our cell phones.
Yeah, we'll give them emergency contact information when they come through registration. We actually give the parents a booklet when they come through there. Emergency contacts is part of it. So they'll get the camp's number and they'll also get my cell phone number.
Good.
But there's no calling home just to call home or because I miss mom or because my mom said I have to call. Like, you don't have a cell phone for that reason. You have a cell phone for emergencies to contact us, and then we would contact them.
We had a lot of calls last year because of the earthquake. But
Yes.
hopefully
And we
there won't
still,
be an earthquake.
yeah.
It's really funny. But
All right.
So would you recommend that, like me bringing some of our kids from Kids Club, would you recommend that I give parents my cell phone number, or would you recommend staying away from that?
that'd be good because
Yeah, it's
Give
not a
them
problem.
They know
The
you.
leader that they're very familiar with. So even when we're at registration, you're going to be one of the ones at the first registration spot with Ashley and Neil. Just so you know that. So they will all see you when they come through line, and if you wanted to jot your number on that book by mine, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, if you guys if you don't know, what's your first name?
Renee.
Renee's part of Kids Club, and they meet real close to us. It's like 700 block of Thayer, right?
Yeah.
So just over here, we invited them to come to camp because the Lighthouse Church wasn't able to come this year. We've done some things with them, and a couple of other leaders. Ruth has been here at Kingdom Kids, so they do a kids program around the neighborhood, but they're with us as well. So it's Kids Club, and we're Kingdom Kids, but we work with the same kids in the same community. So glad to have them with us.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the chance to join you guys.
So welcome. So in case you didn't know what she's talking about, you'll get to know those kids as well.
So, just so because in the action it says that you'll refer back to the discipline card, but it may not necessarily be for that same offense if they got the card.
Right.
But it's still got, even if it's not for the same thing, it still has, they've come up with other things they could have done, and so maybe it's not completely applicable, but most of the time it's gonna be.
So is it okay if it's a completely different situation to go straight into a discipline card instead? And then, like after the kid has already been to leave for a different situation, then he goes into kind of like a semi-serious situation, and then it's okay to go to there and then take that situation to you if he continues to escalate.
No, once you have the discipline card, you can take them right to us, bring them right to us. And then we might decide, yeah, we'll do another card or something, but so you don't have to try to figure that out or whatever. If the discipline card is in place, I think it just comes to us.
Yeah, once they've gone through the process, like you kind of start it over again. So you do give them a reminder. If it's a big issue that keeps coming up, like one example would be a kid that just won't stay with the group. We have a lot of boys like that. It's like, no, you don't have to go through the whole thing again. It's like, look, we already mentioned this. You're going to go and do another service project. Or kids that are constantly fighting or cursing kids out. It's just if it's something different.
Yeah,
It's totally different.
Yeah. That's saying if it's different, then you start the process again if they've already gone through it once. But most of the time, it's going to be the same stuff with the kids. There's going to be the kids that walk away.
And during the rules time, are you guys going to show them these and show them the exact process so that they know once the counselors fill this out that the next step is that?
Yeah, they should
So
be.
that this will actually be a serious thing to
Yeah.
them.
We'll go through it at orientation. That's one of the things that we'll do there. So they'll kind of have an idea of what that process is.
Yeah, and then we'll call it they're getting a record, so we don't want them to get a record.
And if it does get, sorry.
I got some confused about this. You say we have to fill out going from a thing?
No, in front of
No,
them. You
this
fill
is,
that out
the
with
camper
them.
is a part of that. And if the camper's old enough, the camper can fill that out just with you being there to help coach them through it. But it's the camper that's
You
filling
read
out.
it to them. You ask them the questions, and when they give the answers, they write it down or you write it down.
So like since some child say, I want to fill out myself.
Yeah, they
I
can fill it out.
give it to them?
Yeah,
But
but
you're
you're
still
right
there.
there with them.
Okay. We have to give it to one of you later on.
You keep it. If there's another problem, then you bring it to us.
So I never gonna give it to you?
If nothing else happens, you don't ever have to show it to us.
So once you fill it out, let's say if Isaiah is misbehaving and you fill it out with him, and then he has another problem, then the next step is to go to the dean, and at that point you would give the discipline card to the dean while you're having that discussion. But if Isaiah has that one warning and then he's good, then there's no reason, you just keep it for if he does have another problem. Then you can look back and say, oh yeah, I already gave Isaiah a discipline card. Now I go to step 3 and I talk to the dean.
It's a good chance for conversations throughout the week too. I know last year I had a lot of conversations with one of the kids where we had done, it wasn't a discipline card, but just the same idea, coming up with other options. Okay, which one are you going to pick? What are you going to do when this situation comes up again? And it's a great opportunity to talk to them throughout the week. Like, hey, how's that going? You said next time this kid bothered you, you were going to, walk away, but stay with your group, go to a leader and kind of stick by them. You said you were going to do that. How's that going? And bring it up again. Help them keep thinking about it. So.
I have another concern. When it's nighttime in the fireplace, some children, they like to read in the backside, reading the back. Usually it's the biggest one, 11 and 12, usually boys. And I think when Jason preparing in the day history for 9-10, they are doing preparing show for 9-10 too. Yeah, because they are in a bad trying to put the other children laughing at me.
Yeah.
And I have a bad experience and also good last year that one pulling me out, I blocked out because he was all the time bothering the other children and not let me hear what you were saying. And I said, please be quiet because you are disrespectful. You are very disrespectful now with the leaders and also with all children here because we want to hear what they are saying. And he said, but right now you are disrespecting them because you are talking to. When you talk to me, he said that to me. And it was true because I was talking to. And I saw another leader near me and they were patient with the boy. But I want to see if you can like put some children, be helpful at that time, like a helper. And maybe that can be very helpful at my time.
Yeah.
So if they be very enrolled in the front doing something too, that's a suggestion that I have to. So if you can keep it in mind.
Yeah, and that's part of why, like, one of the things it says in being proactive is, like, to be strategic and break up cliques. You're going to find out really quickly what boys or what girls really shouldn't be sitting next to each other at campfire because they are going to have problems. And, like, that's a great spot to put yourself right in the middle of them and force them to be on either side of you and stuff. And then if it continues and there continues to be a problem, then, you know, a discipline card will probably have to happen, you know, after campfire.
And another concern that I have is when they are in line to go to get breakfast or lunch or dinner, sometimes no any leaders outside, and they even fight there. They say bad words, they are humans.
Yeah, there are supposed to be leaders out there, but we can have more out there this year if that helps. So.
And really quick, like any type of disrespect, like really direct disrespect like that to the, like my thing is to an extent, like when in doubt, you can talk to the dean. If someone says something like, you know, why don't you be quiet? You're the one that's disrupting stuff. Like you can say, like, let's talk to the dean. You know what I mean? Like, and it depends. You know the kid, you know the situation. But if they're willing to say that in your face and like, you know, basically just completely disrespect you, you say, no, we got to talk about that with the dean, and you can take them right to it because that's the type of thing that we need to stop immediately. And we can lovingly say, hey man, we love you, but that's not okay. You know, so those are the types of things you can, yeah, if it's serious like that, let us know.
And the step 4 is that they go home. If we do decide that for a kid, we will let you know, obviously. But they're going to have a chance to say goodbye to their counselors in their cabin and to the other campers in their cabin. They'll get that chance before they head out. So you'll be aware.
We want to make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to different words we are using in our discipline system. Below are key terms defined as they are to be used at Kingdom Kids at Camp Conquest. Discipline is about teaching children appropriate behaviors and helping them become independent, responsible people. A key part of growing up is learning how to deal with the results of one's actions. It's not a quick fix, but a process that we are part of. So we're just helping them grow with this. It's not a quick fix is key here. Like you think, like after camp, they're not going to have this necessarily figured out. It's just a step in the process. Similar to spiritual disciplines, we have to practice them in order to have them become a reality in our lives. At first, it may not be heartfelt, but eventually it becomes a habit that turns into a reality lived out in our daily lives. And we talked about, we kind of like, in joking terms, just like how the kids, a lot of the kids aren't disciplined to be disciplined. Like, it's just a play on words, but like, they don't even know how to be disciplined. It's not part of the way that they're brought up, part of the way they're living. They don't exactly even know what it means to be disciplined. That like, there's, like discipline is doing stuff in a way that like makes sense, that's orderly, different things like that. Like they don't got that. So that's kind of why this process is a little trickier at camp. Consequences are outcomes, negative or positive, of a person's actions. By their nature, they gauge our behavior because we as humans strive for positive outcomes or consequences. When dealing with disciplining your camper, there are two types of consequences that you'll need to be concerned with, natural and logical. Both of these types can be positive or negative. Natural consequences occur naturally, hence the name. They are not controlled or manipulated by anyone. When you plant a flower in your garden and take care of it, it grows. That is a positive example of a natural consequence. When you put your finger in an electric socket, you get a shock. That is an example of negative natural consequences. When you run down the hill, you might fall. That's like a natural consequence. Logical consequences are situations engineered by the person in authority, and they are logically connected to the wrong. It is logical because it fits the effects. For example, if your camper breaks curfew, she isn't allowed out the next night. If she doesn't eat dinner, she doesn't get dessert. These are examples of negative logical consequences. Oh yeah, if there's picky eaters, like, it's kind of like this is dinner, eat the parts you like. There's plenty of the parts you like, so eat a little bit more of that. There's not special like little dinners afterwards or anything for them, just for pickiness. And we have all allergies and everything like that. So that if they don't eat, then they will be hungry until the next meal, but the next meal comes fast, so they'll be fine.
Let me know if they have extra.
Yeah, and Neil will eat their extras.
And if you have a kid who straight up refuses to eat a meal, like, don't kill yourself over it. They're not going to starve themselves. But do withhold dessert. That's well within your power to do. That, like it says, that's a logical consequence. So, yeah, do that for the kids at your table if they're just straight up refusing to eat. And they probably will eat a great meal at the next meal. So.
Service project is a method of teaching, learning, and reflecting. This is a time for us to enable the camper to make the connection that their choices affect those around them. This is an opportunity to give something good back to the community. And that's, again, the stuff that we'll be working as a team to decide on. If the kid comes back and, like, say the kid was disrespectful and ends up doing a service at bedtime, and they go through the process, and they lose pool time and are working on a service project, and say it's cleaning the bathroom. Please don't make the assumption that the next kid who breaks that rule will do the same consequence or the same service project. So you don't have to guess at the service projects or anything like that. You can just let them know one will be coming and let their imagination go, like Jason said. Punishment is the practice of imposing something unpleasant or aversive on a person, usually in response to disobedient or morally wrong behavior. It is not something we are doing to them, it is something they are doing to themselves because of choice they have made. We will provide a tangible follow-up that we provide. I don't mean to read that, I'm sorry. That's not on there yet, sorry.
We were saying that we'll kind of summarize by acting out.
Skip,
So, yeah, no, who wants to be a recalcitrant, counselor, unruly kid that doesn't want to go to sleep? Lewis, you got it? All right, so here's the deal, right? I'm the counselor. Kelly is the dean. Ashley is Mr. Moon is Mr. Moon is the senior counselor in the cabin, okay? So we're over here, Lewis is sleeping, or he's not sleeping, that's the problem. All right, guys, lights out, we talked about the rules, have a good night, we'll see you guys later, all right? We'll see you on the flip side, or whatever cool terms are. All right, and then Lewis is over there, making noise,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's pretty common. Lewis, what time is it right now, man?
Nighttime.
Lights out, right? Do we make noise during lights out? Do we make noise during lights out?
I do when I go where I live.
Those lights out, right? We're sleeping now. Yeah, get a good night's sleep, something. Okay. So there's our good reminder, right? I mean, I don't know how it's actually going to work out if he has, he's making a little bit more of a peep. Lewis, no more, okay? Again. Come on, man, you gotta learn from some of the kids. Right, again, because a lot of the big problem is that is what happens. It disrupts the whole, like, all right, Lewis. Man, warning card, right? Yeah, I'm right now. Let's go. You know the consequences. We talked about this. All right, now I'm probably going to take him outside and sit on the little patios there. You know what I mean? We sit down. All right, Lewis, do you want to write this out or should I?
You can write it.
Okay. Lewis, right. Lewis, what did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Lewis, what did you do?
I was making fart noises.
Right, and why was that not okay?
Because
what time was it?
It was night. It was night.
Lights out, right? Okay. Lights out. All right. So when you did that, Lewis, what did you want? What did you want to happen?
I didn't want to go to bed.
Right.
I wanted to make friends.
Yeah, and you were maybe trying to get attention from
I
other
wanted
people.
people to have
Right. Which is okay sometimes, right? But during lights out time, is that okay?
No.
No, not okay. Okay. What are some other things that you could have done in that situation?
Could have made it even louder. I should have went to bed.
You should have gone to bed. Okay, that's one. Now, in this situation, I don't know if you have to go through 4 explicit things that they could have done, but I might stretch it like, so Lewis, if you're a little bored, what might you be able to do while you're in bed? You could
I can count sheep.
count sheep. That's a great idea, right? I mean, kids would say that, count sheep. You could practice your memory verses to yourself, right? Maybe something you could do the correct way, you have to do it silently. Okay, perfect. So and that kind of goes. So which one do you think you'll do out of the list? Which one do you want to do next time?
I think I'll probably just go sleep.
Okay, go to sleep. Sounds good. Lewis, we good to go, man?
Yeah.
All right, let's pray that God can help you with that, okay? Pray. All right, now let's pray. Again. Now, this could happen, and we'll make it, this is the most simple situation is, saying, we go back in 2 minutes later, Lewis. All right. Lewis, come here. You talk to us. I got to call Dean. I'm going to call Jason right now. So you step outside, get the phone out, call Jason. We'll probably be around at this point. Talk to Jason. This is the situation. Here's the discipline card. We know we talked about this, right, Lewis? I'm sorry. I said Kelly was the dean at this point, but not Jason's here. Okay. And I sorry, the part I forgot too is, and in the cabin, everyone will know this, but to make sure you let your senior counselor know, hey, Mr. Moon, just so you know, Lewis is having this problem, so we already did the warning card, like I talked to you about before or whatever, and now we're meeting with the dean, so there's common understanding, and then conference happens, which Jason will lead, and then go from there, right? And so again, what I don't want to do there is say, all right, Lewis, that's it, you're out of pool tomorrow. No, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? We might find out that we had a little conference where I was like, oh, shoot, we can't do it during pool time because of X, Y, Z that we didn't think of. We have to do it
Because
during...
his 5 friends are out at the service project.
Right, yeah. Seriously, yeah.
It's not going to be a good idea.
So yeah, all right, we're talking to the dean. Yeah, he'll talk. I don't know what he's going to do. No, I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. You think, you know what I mean? And then go from there.
So if they are completely disrespectful during filling out a discard, because I just envision possibly if you ask them
Right.
when you did that, what did you want, or stuff like that, or what did you do, and they come back with some like very smart comment, disrespectful, in your face stuff, can we call you immediately then?
Yeah.
Call the deans, is that an appropriate step of action? Okay.
I feel like that really explicit disrespect is kind of like a,
Yeah, and if it's a matter of like, no, wait a minute, we need to take this seriously. Like if you ask them,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
if they're just not, then, or if they're not talking, that's the other thing that'll happen. I think a lot of times, like kids won't say anything. Be patient, but only to a certain point. So if they don't say anything, there's like, oh, okay, we're gonna call the dean then because you're not. So like your recourse is always just call us.
You know, one thing he might have missed when he was done with the card was just a warning of, do you know
Right.
if this happens
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
you'll have to see the dean.
yeah,
What's going to happen?
Perfect.
I don't know, but that's the next step. So just that he knows that, and he can calculate that kind of while he's deciding on how loud to make his next.
Problem that I've seen up there was like at lights out, might be meetings, they have to get together.
The kids have to get together?
No, some of the counselors, so then they step out the door.
That's
It's,
something we're trying to curb this year.
if we, during the devotions, if we could just not have any outside disturbance during that time.
Yeah.
Because that
And
causes
the
problems
counselors
like
are in.
this kids, you're giving 3 or 4 kids to have devotions within the cabin, but their leader's not there. They don't want to join you, they want to wait for their leader. We talked about this last night, and you don't do
And
anything.
even with discipline stuff, because sometimes it's like they were dealing with another kid, but that just makes your devotion group now 6 kids trying to do something. You have no clue what they've done with devotions, really, or what's going on. So
Yeah, if stuff's hectic right away, you could just text and say, hey, the cabin's out of hand, can someone get up here? So you just have extra hands. And I think all hands, all counselors need to be in the dorm until the entire dorm is calmed down. Like, and then you need to let your senior counselor, or if the senior counselor is heading out, let the other counselors know, hey, I'm gonna be blah, 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 blah. And like, don't plan on any huge nighttime activities or anything like that until you know for sure that the cabin is like out, because that's not fair to the other workers and stuff like that.
Well, usually, you know, like if you can get them quiet within 20 minutes, half hour,
They're
they're
asleep.
asleep.
And then after that half an hour, if you need to sneak out and do showers, or you want to have a conversation with somebody or hang out a little, that's cool as long as there's still one person around, I think, or whatever.
Well, on these cards, since you have teams in the cabin, can we maybe put both of those on there as something to fill out? So that way it's, at least for me, kind of a reminder that if I fill this out in somebody in my cabin, I need to let the people that are in charge of his team know, hey, like he's already got a card. If he X up, now you can go straight.
Or vice versa on
Yeah,
the team.
or-
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So, and like, I know I think that, but I'm sure when I fill this out, I won't think that unless I actually have to write it down.
We can put some like check boxes on it or something like that. I can add something like that so that, you know, after you've done it with the kid, you know, you
Do we,
remember.
will
like,
it have a
touch
spot
base
of
with-
what team they're in?
Well, you guys have a list. They have lists.
Yeah, you'll have a list
Yeah.
of all the kids, of
Okay.
what cabin and team they're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then check off, talk to senior council, check off, talk to senior.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially helpful for some, because some counselors just do that, and they just don't show up when they need to show up. You're not around, and it ends up, those of us who are more responsible, maybe, I don't know why, but some counselors just end up being more responsible, and others aren't, and that can't happen this year. It's not safe for the kids. It's really hard for the counselors that are trying to be the responsible ones. So if you know you need to be somewhere, like, don't give excuses. We'll be on you. So the deans might be on you about that. If we see you somewhere else, we're like, well, why aren't you at your cabin? Don't give us an excuse, because we'll call home and maybe come get your mom will come get you. Your wife will come get you, or whoever. But that can't happen. And that happens, it happens with different people, especially some younger guys. You know, so just be responsible this year. And certainly don't give us an excuse. If you're not where you need to be, like, just be like, oh, I'm going. They'll be like, no, but I need to. It's like, look, if I'm telling you you need to be with the kids, you need to be with the kids. So don't, you know, oh, I have to put this away. Like, put it away later. They're going nuts up there. Like, what are you doing? And sometimes it's the hill. Like, I know some counselors, like, there's one guy one year, he's not here this year, but he just, like, didn't want to go up the hill one more time. I'm like, you gotta help us. Like, you can't just, oh, I'm just done. You know, it's like, no, you're not. We're not, it's not Friday. We're not done. Like, so communicate that to us too. If you feel like, you know, there's another counselor's they're not there, like, let us know, because we want to get that deal with it right away. But that shouldn't be a problem with any of you guys. So,
Say
right?
it to the other counselor first, and then come to us.
Yeah, just like, hey, could you be here during that time? But,
Yep. So we kind of did discipline system simplify. We kind of showed you that through the skit, but that is a handy little table.
Go over this, if you can go over this like each day before camp, just so you're really like, okay, I need to give them a reminder, I need to give them a warning, and then we go to the dean. Just so you have that in your head, because we kept mixing it up when we were talking through it. Like, reminder is not reminder, warning, then card. The card is the warning, you know, so just kind of work with that and practice it.
Question. If the child, this hasn't happened to me, but, you know, just in case. Like, if they run away from you, do you just let them run?
Yeah,
Because I know you
to
said
an
no
extent.
hands, no nothing, so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well,
And with some kids, if you chase them, then it's a game.
yeah.
So to an extent, they can't get too far because A, they're terrified of the woods, and there's really not that far to go. So do your best to keep them in sight, but there's lots of ways to keep campers in sight without chasing them.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times last year I picked up trash that probably wasn't even there because I was following someone 50 feet away and trying to act like I had no idea that they were there. So I was picking up trash. I could see them out of the corner of my eye, and they're like, "Ma'am, why isn't anybody?" Like, they would run and then come back. And I'm not even kidding. I had a kid who was doing this, waiting for someone to chase them. And when nobody did, he got halfway up to the athletic field and then kind of shrugged and walked back down and walked back to his cabin. So, you know, it happens. So try to keep them in sight. Like, obviously you can't be like, "Oh, one just ran away. Oh well." You know, you can't just let it go off completely, but don't chase them.
So just wait for them to come back and then deal with
Follow
it.
them.
Follow them discreetly.
and you can let them know too. Okay, you walk away. We're gonna let the deans know about this. So that's something like, just tell us, find us right away. Yeah, because that's something that you're right, that happens all the time.
And that's the same thing, like the more common problem for us is the kid just not willing to move. Like, no, I don't want to go. Well, that's ruining the whole group. It's pulling you away as a counselor. So that's the type of thing you can say, like, are you going to go or do we need to get a D to take, because that's the thing that's going to hold up your whole deal.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. If you have one kid who's refusing to move, then fine, take the rest of your group and start walking them. And while you're walking them, as long as that one is still in sight, like call us and call one of us and let us know that you're having a problem with the kid and they're not coming with you and whatnot. By taking the rest of the kids, you're removing their audience, so chances are they're going to wait a minute and then come catch up with you anyways, because it's really no fun to be sitting somewhere all by yourself, especially if you're trying to get attention.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's helpful. I know a lot of the guys who just, one counselor would stay, not inside the cabin with the kid, but like have the door open and just be there with them.
Yeah.
And then they'd come find us and we'd help deal with it.
Like too, I think also the guys who run Mike and whoever else, like they seem to see everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like they always kind of know somehow when the kid's going off. It's quite amazing. So.
Yes.
But that is the biggest difference. Don't restrain a kid if they're just not where they need to be, or don't force them to go somewhere. We're not going to do that this year because that just worked out last year.
Yeah.
Only if there's a fight, we do need to hold them. Stop it. Where we at now? We could do it I think we get through in a few minutes because we don't really need much of this. All right, tips when disciplining. We're going to try to finish up here in the next 10, 15 minutes, perhaps, right? Anything else?
That's a goal.
All right. These are from a book written by a lady who was, I think, an educator, trying to help you understand the differences between kids who especially grow up in poverty where there's not as much discipline. It says, in poverty, discipline is about penance and forgiveness, not necessarily change. It's important to note that the approach to discipline advocated to you is to teach a separate set of behaviors. Many of the behaviors that campers bring with them are necessary to help them survive in their city. Structure and choice are the two anchors of any effective discipline program. Move students to self-governance or being able to kind of control themselves. Behaviors related to poverty, it says they laugh when disciplined. It's a way to save face in a matriarchal situation where it's kids are just growing up with just a mom. Understand the reason for the behavior, this intervention. Tell the student 3 or 4 other behaviors that would be more appropriate. They argue loudly with their teacher. Poverty is participatory. The culture has a distrust of authority. So the system is inherently dishonest and unfair. So these are things that will happen as you're dealing with kids. So don't argue with them. Talked about the sheet later, help them write out answers. Just model respect for them and really be patient through the discipline process with them. An angry response. Anger is based on fear. Question what the fear is. Is it loss of face or something else? Respond in an adult voice. And we'll kind of go through that a little bit. This adult voice is it's not authoritarian. It's not this, stop this, don't do this. It's just more of a patient waiting for them to respond correctly. Discuss other responses they could have used. Inappropriate or vulgar comments. That's going to happen. Reliance on whatever this means. I have no idea. But there's different ways. There's like a street way of dealing with things, and there's like the proper way, or sometimes an inappropriate labeled like you're acting white. There's different ways that kids know to act. It's like, and some kids don't know that. They don't realize that there's street, and then there's like the business world, or the formal world, or the school world. This is where the school runs into it all the time, because they've developed a set of behaviors to survive in the street, and yet they can't make that transition to realize, like, wait a minute, there's different ways of acting, and I've got to learn that different kind of behavior. So have campers generate phrases that could be used to say the same thing. So you're kind of helping them learn just a different way of acting, godly way of acting, but also just a more appropriate way. Physically fighting, necessary to survive. Only they know the language of survival. Don't have a language or belief system to use conflict resolution. See themselves as less than a man or woman if they don't fight. No explanation needed. I think we know how that works. Like, you fight, it doesn't make sense not to fight. I gotta stress that fighting it's unacceptable at camp. Examine other options that the camper could live with, other than fighting. Their hands are always on someone else. Poverty has a heavy reliance on nonverbal touch and data. Allow them to draw or doodle. Have them hold their hands behind their back when in line or standing. Give them as much to do with their hands as possible in a constructive way. Cannot follow directions. Little procedural memory is used. Sequences are not used or valued. Write steps down. Help them realize what they need to do. They complete only part of a task. There's no procedural self-talk. They don't see the whole task. Help, again, write it out for them. They're disrespectful to you. They have a lack of respect for authority in the system. May not know any adults worthy of respect. A lot of kids, they disrespect their mom all day. They don't talk to her. So it's nothing personal. I think you have to realize that. It's like they do this to everybody. So don't take it personal, but help them realize that it's not a choice that they have to disrespect you or another authority. You're really fighting an uphill battle with a lot of kids because you're the first person in their life who is trying to teach them a godly way to live. So just keep that in mind and realize it's not going to just change in a moment or overnight. Help identify the correct voice tone and word choice. They harm other campers verbally, physically. This may just be a way of life. Probably a way to buy space or distance, may have become just a habitual response. Poverty tends to address issues in the negative. So don't have a lot of positive kids sometimes. They're always just going to the extent where everything is falling apart. Tell campers that aggression is not a choice. Have them generate other options that are appropriate choice for camp. Cheating or stealing is part of a weak support system, weak role models, emotional resources. May indicate extreme financial need or little instructive guidance during formative years. Know that there's going to be kids at camp that are just kleptomaniacs as well. I don't think we address that much. But kids will just borrow things or take things, and they don't think about it. We've run into kids in years past who they live for money and they will take money if they see it. We shouldn't have any money at camp or other things like that. It's just a good idea to realize that that's part of life for some of the kids, and that's acceptable. And then there's a story that we can do if we have time. Talk incessantly. And it's very participatory. It's about who can be the loudest. So you have to kind of take charge, and like I said, don't let them think as much as they need to or talk as much, but give them something constructive to do instead.
Hey, dude, I just want to say goodbye, everyone. Bye, guys.
Goodbye,
Bye,
Taylor. We love you.
Hold on. My keys are on your desk. It's okay, Lisa.
Okay, cool.
And there's also
Aaron? Did Aaron?
he's gone too.
Did you leave his key?
I don't know who he left with. I'm sure. I don't know where he put it. But there's also sugar and a big thing of salt upstairs if you guys want to eat or whatever.
Dibs.
What they ate all summer.
For the church, that'd be great for the church.
Take
All right.
care.
See you guys. Thank you for everything.
Thanks,
Thanks,
man. I'll see you in
Taylor.
January.
I'll be in contact with a lot of you stuff.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.
With a lot of you, not everyone.
You probably have more than one Facebook friend.
That's right. I don't know how much more of this you want to go through.
Participation of the camper, that gives you some good information on going through the card. It's really brief, so I think you guys can read through that. You want to skip up the language of the three voices, yeah.
If we're gonna just go down to the three voices quick, just because this makes you think. One of the biggest issues with students from poverty is the fact that many children in poverty must function as their own parents. They parent themselves and others, often younger siblings. In many instances, they also act as a parent to the adult in their household too. Inside virtually everyone's head are three internal voices that guide the individual. These voices are the child voice, the adult voice, and the parent voice. It has been observed that the individuals who have become their own parent quite young do not have an internal adult voice. They have a child voice and a parent voice, but not an adult voice. And down through here, it just goes through what they are. The child voice is defensive, victimized, emotional. Let's just read the examples over here. That says it all, right? Yeah. We'll just read the examples because they are better than just a word defining it.
So finding might be better than adult voice.
The child voice so often sounds like, quit picking on me, you don't love me, you want me to leave, nobody likes or loves me, I hate you, you're ugly, you make me sick, it's your fault, don't blame me, he did it, you make me mad, you made me do it. So that's a child voice, that's when we're speaking as children. We do it too, and the kids are going to do it all week. The adult voice is defined on the other side as, that's what you said? Wait, oh, there. The columns don't line up, I'm sorry.
They line up on theirs and there's some
Okay.
others.
The adult voice is non-judgmental, it's free of negative and non-verbal. It's factual, often in question format. It's an attitude of win-win. That's the one we want to try to use. It's, you shouldn't, wait, sorry, I got to go back to the other column. In what ways could this be resolved? What factors will be used to determine the effectiveness or quality of this? I would like to recommend that. What are choices in this situation? I'm comfortable or uncomfortable with this that you did or that you did. And options that could be considered are, and then you give options. And just this morning in class, in the Bible Institute, it's interesting that God used the adult voice with Adam and Eve, in that he asked them questions. He didn't jump right to their motives or say you did this wrong, but he asked them questions that made them evaluate yourself. And he did it with Mary in the garden too when she was doubting. Like, Mary, why are you doubting? Mary, what are you looking for? And it's asking questions and making, like us, taking ownership of our sins, and we want to do that with the kids too. The parent voice, which I jump into way too much, is you shouldn't or should do that. It's wrong or right that you do this. That's stupid or immature or out of line. That's ridiculous. Life's not fair. Get busy. You're good, bad, worthless, beautiful. You do as I say. If you weren't so blank, this wouldn't happen to you. Why can't you be like blank? We don't want to use that a whole lot. There's times when you do it. If a child's safety is in, you have to yell stop and tell a kid not to do something if they're going to hurt themselves or someone else. That's when you need to be taking care of them. You need to be their parent. You need to be rescuing them from damage, you know. But other times, we want to help them to be making decisions and use that. Do we read the metaphor story? Okay.
Even just an example of the difference between like the parent voice and the adult voice. Like if you're expecting a kid to line up and come with you, you know, the parent voice says, you know, you need to be in line right now, walking with us, we're going somewhere. And the adult voice might be simply, you know, I expect everybody to be in line, you know, because we're walking now. There's a different tone there. It's not judgmental. It's not putting them down and saying, you know, these are expectations that I have. You know, it can be like that too.
And then so what are you doing? If we need to be, are you in line? That's more, I almost naturally say, why aren't you in line? But it has to be like, what are you doing, helping them clean? And we want to do the skip things.
Let's do in conclusion, campers from poverty need to have at least 2 sets of behaviors to choose from, one for the street and one for camp. The purpose of discipline should be to promote successful behaviors. Teaching students to use the adult voice is important for success in and out of camp and can become an alternative to physical aggression for them. Structure and choice need to be a part of the discipline approach, and discipline should be seen and used as a form of instruction.
Yeah.
You just divide up and then
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
well, you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
Yeah. All right, so this can happen very quick, and it can also be fun if you're willing. One thing that we want to do is make orientation like more than just Jason or Kelly or I or whoever standing up there and saying like, you know, no running down the hill, rest time and lights out means you would, you know, like we don't want to set a tone like that. So we were thinking that one cool way for us to get the rules in our minds would be to now come up with skits for that. So I think if we do it according to your, if we don't have quite enough, if we do it according to teams or cabins, let's go teams so we can have then guys and girls can be mixed up, so we'll have examples from each. So if you want to find, get together in a group with your team,
And you guys have that list.
You have that list. So
Teams is on top, cabins is on the bottom. So go with your team that's on top. That's the color groups: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, white. You all have a color.
We're going to give you a rule that you just figure out a really quick skit that you could act out part of this process with them. Like a kid acting right or wrong in it and the counselor reminding them, possibly warning them, something like that. But just quick, and you can make it kind of fun too.
yeah, I
So
would say in some ways like not required. But please make it fun. It'll be more fun for us. Do it if it's just really small. Find some way to scream and laugh and do something.
But I'm not into doing skits.
Me neither.
I like to see some skits.
Then talk to your group about that. Maybe you can be the delegator.
Some groups need directors. So you guys want to do? Do you want to maybe just have the red group go with if you do have it this way, have like white group over there and blue group, or you guys can just split yourselves up. I'm sorry, just go for it.
What? I'll tell you just as soon as you get in your groups.
Yeah, once you.
I'll just.
Steven?
Nice to meet you. It's still kind of
Okay, which rule are you going to do? Pick one. Just push. Hurry, go. I'm going to sign it. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be alright. We're going to be meeting on Sunday as well.
What?
It's going to be very.
Is there a line here?
I'm sure.
Which rule do you want?
I did a really great scan. At least we were able to know what kind of step was on.
This one's gone.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. That's how you say it.
Which I don't know.
Clever.
Okay.
But you can be like, yeah, not quite as easy. Still easy. Why don't we get my hearing notes and walk down?
Wait. I missed something now. What's the problem?
Break your right.
So, do you want to be the cobbler or the cobbler? Okay. I like to say something about James. So, probably best to do. Do you do a lot of that kind of stuff?
Next Sunday it'll be out.
Where did you go to school? Alright. So yeah, I mean, I've been there. No, I just my parents wanted to see it, and like it was just like
Okay, so
my family had never been here before. It's fantasy actually.
So you run down the hill.
I went on that, and then last summer I went.
Yeah, she'll be in front of me.
Last summer I went to Martin. Summer I stayed here twice. Our church art. Just got up here. Yeah, they come up here.
I don't want to get hit by the vacuum.
Okay, you have like 2 minutes and then we're going to perform them. 2 minutes.
So I'll say, I'm gonna run around there.
How's your sport, boy?
So I'll say,
Where have you been, Jeffrey?
I'll say, hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you wearing normal shoes? There's no glass. I can wear shoes. Well, you're supposed to be wearing normal shoes. You're not going to the pool, are you?
No, I'm just walking in the grass. I'm
Are you
fine.
going to take a shower?
What is that?
This is why you have to wear normal shoes. Is that a bear? No, you know what bears do. Okay.
I'm not going to campfire time. I'm going to prepare. Just say like,
Okay, since we said the rules don't really have numbers, if you are doing no fighting,
Rule
you're
number 7.
up. If you're no fighting, it's you guys, you're up to do your skit.
I'm sorry, that's the one that they're not here. There's only.
I can share that one.
They're aware that they're doing it.
Oh, they left already?
Yeah, but yeah, in some of the people.
No bad language. And then you'll have other people to act this out with then at camp, because the rest of the counselors will be around.
Okay. Ah, yeah, I made the shot.
You're so stupid. You play basketball like your mom. I saw her playing the other day in the street and she could not throw, and that's you. You suck. You're terrible.
Guys, no bad language.
So was that accurate to like, there's not just a warning there, or is she getting a warning then, or that's like elevated enough for you to take her to the card right away?
No, I think that's just a reminder.
That's just a reminder
Yeah,
there.
Just to give her a reminder.
Okay. And then they
Don't talk
join
like
in
that
and
at
play.
camp and whatnot, so.
No running on hills or heels.
Spell the same.
We're telling what we're doing.
The way that Herman said it, it's spelled the same.
We just want to show an example of running downhill.
What
does it hurt?
if you were to run down?
So we want to show this is what it hurts when you run down.
This is so much fun. Woo, yay. Oh no.
Not only hurt yourself, but you go out of control and easily hurt someone else.
My
It's
leg.
called others.
What's up? Rest time.
Oh, that's like right on.
Norman, not a vehicle.
So, this is my bed, that's his bed. That kid next to me is sleeping.
Lights out.
Oh my god. Please.
Hey, lights out. Lights out.
Whatever. You're not my dad.
She's so funny.
You think you're my mom.
You need our rest.
It's only 9. I'm tired. We're not tired. Why do I need a curfew? Ted, I don't need a curfew.
Can you please have Jason do that?
Don't touch me. Like, all right, we're gonna have to do this.
I know she doesn't want to act me down. You started it.
You gotta take action for yourself.
Copycat, see what happens? Now you're in trouble. Ha 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 ha.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, come over here. You're gonna do a discipline card too with Mr. Neal, your other camp counselor.
Alright, guys, you know the rules. No talking during lights out. Let's go.
I wasn't even talking.
You guys can end this skit there. We don't want to like
Are
keep
you
her
guys
to it.
seeing?
No, I was just going into the topic. Yeah, so
That's
you
what I'm
guys.
saying, if you are, that'd be a good place to be like, remember, if you get something beyond this, you can just go somewhere and the skits can
Right,
happen.
right. And the fighting, we can make sure that they go.
Okay,
But yeah, no,
Fighting it.
no, I was just, yeah, so you guys should just come up with some, and I can do that, just come up with some sort of final, like, way to finish it. Like, alright, no talking.
Stay with your group.
Alright, so there's only 2 of us, so I'm gonna play 2 roles. When you see me run around, that's me playing
Not a
another role. So I'm not being a counselor, but when I am with a counselor, or when I'm playing the counselor role, I'm gonna have a lot of kids with me. So just pretend there's kids with me. Okay? Alright, it's time to go, you guys. Hey, remember, stay in your group. No wandering off.
No
Let's go.
wandering off.
It's so cool out. Wow. I love being in the woods.
Roar! you're gonna miss out on a lot of things.
I'm never gonna leave my group again.
Good idea.
Flip-flops. Or sandals.
Renee, what are you doing in your sandals? It's summertime. I wear flip-flops.
Well, are you going to the shower?
No, I'm just walking in the woods. There's no glass. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Are you going to the pool?
Nope.
No? Watch out! Ah! Oh! Ah! What is that?
Renee, this is
Renee,
why
you
we
bear
go
with
with
my
white
sandals.
sandals.
Why don't we go back and change?
I think that's everybody. Is there any other groups I missed? No?
Well, thank you very much. Is that all the groups? That's all the groups?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much for coming and doing this. Please continue to read over that information. It's a lot to take in. I know even for us, we've messed up so many times, even talking about this a couple days ago, like, wait, when does the discipline card come? Okay, when are the counselors supposed to come in? When are the deans supposed to come in? So just take time to read through it, really get to know it well, so that you're not constantly having to pull this paper out and be like, okay, first step, I have to do this. Like, we'd like you to just really internalize it, and so it's more second nature while you're at camp. So there's that one, look over that. And I have another one here that I'm going to give you before you leave that's really valuable too. It's called Using Enforceable Statements, and it's just another way of phrasing things that sometimes can help when you're working with kids. So this is another one to read over, just give some ideas. Some of them are irrelevant because it's based on like a parent working with their kids at home. So some of them you can't use, but some of them apply, and it just gives you ideas for a different way of talking to kids when you're working with them. So you'll have this one to look over too. Ashley, Neil, myself, and Jason, one of us will be calling you this week, and that goes for you on video too. We will call you guys this week and just make sure that you've been reading through the stuff. We might ask you a couple questions about it. If you have any questions about it, that's a great time to ask us any questions about it and stuff. Other than that, we will see you back here next week for our full step orientation. So, Neil, you want to close in prayer before we all bounce?
I mean, please. God, I do thank you so much. You have blessed us with an awesome group of counselors and with friends and family. And yeah, we just thank you for that. Thank you for this opportunity to be used by you for your work. Help us to do it joyfully and with thanksgiving toward you. And I just want to pray the same as Jason was earlier, that we wouldn't have any sort of prideful attitude thinking about us being able to go in there and do a good job by our own ability, but that we would just continually recognize that unless you build the house, the workers labor in vain. But if you're not building it, then nothing's going to happen. If you're not teaching, nothing's going to happen. So we just ask that you would be working mightily and preparing us